Hey, third grade, this is your math video for lesson 6.9. This is actually going to be a 2-day lesson. So we're going to start it today and then we will finish it tomorrow. So what we're going to be looking at are number stories and how to write a 2-step number story that fits a number sentence. So this one will be where they give you a number sentence and then we write a story about it. But to start, we're going to do some mental math problems, but you will need your workbooks and your whiteboards. So we're going to start on our whiteboards, and then we are going to do a page in our workbook. So pause the video while you grab your whiteboard, workbook, or a piece of paper. All right, so just as a review, the number sentences that we are going to be looking at are going to have parentheses in them. So your last lesson you did was on parentheses. So it was just saying about how they're used to make the intended meaning of the number sentence clear. So when you have parentheses in a problem, you do those first. That changes how you answer your number sentence. So here are two examples. Both of them have the same numbers, the 25 minus 8 plus 7, but where the parentheses are changed. So in this case, we did 25 minus 8 first, and then we added 7 to get 24. Where this one, we did 25, kind of set that to the side, and then did 8 plus 7 first. So we did 8 plus 7 first, then we brought that 25 back in, and we did 25 minus 8 plus 7, which equals 10. So you solve for the parentheses first, the little brackets, and then I think it's helpful to kind of write the number above it, which I'll show you when we do a few example problems. And then it almost is like a 2-step number story. You do that first, then you do the other part to get your answer. All right, so for our mental math to start, we're just going to do some division and multiplication problems, and then we are going to do some parenthesis problems. So I want you to follow along and do them on your whiteboard. So for this one, I gave you 3 division problems. I want you to give me the multiplication problem that you could use to solve this. So for example, 24 divided by 6. So instead of saying 24 divided by 6, we could say 6 times what would equal 24. So that's what I want you to write on your whiteboard, is I want you to think 6 times what equals 24, or what times 6 equals 24. Okay, so try and solve that one first. So it would be 6 times 4 equals 24. Or you could say 24 divided by 6 equals 4. What about 35 divided by 7? Okay, flip it to multiplication. 7 times what would equal 35? Think about that. Did you write this on your whiteboard? 7 times 5 equals 35? So 35 divided by 7 would equal 5. You could skip count by 5. And our last one, 54 divided by 6. This one's a little tricky, but think about it. 6 times what equals 54? Okay, pause the video. Maybe you need to use a strategy to solve that. But 6 times what equals 54? So the answer would be 6 times 9 equals 54. Those 9's facts can be a little tricky. One of the tips that I actually heard was the answer, so the 2 numbers in your answer, so 5 and 4, if you add those together, they always will equal 9. So with any of the answers that you do, so like 5 times 9 is 45, and 4 plus 5 is 9. I'm trying to think of another one. 9 times 3 is 27. So 9 times 3 is 27, and 2 plus 7 is 9. So just a trick for your 9 multiplication fact. All right, go ahead and erase your boards. And now we're going to practice some parenthesis review. So remember, you solve for the parentheses first, and then you go to the next step. So 5 times 8 minus 2. So for this one, we would do 5 times 8 first. So 5 times 8. Maybe you have fact power over that, or maybe you need to skip count, which you could do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And then it would just end up being 40 minus 2. So what's 40 minus 2? It would be 38. And then here, remember, sometimes these problems, they'll put the the question mark like at the beginning, And again, you just solve it like you normally would. 17 minus 6, and then you do 24 minus that number. So 17 minus 6. What is 17 minus 6? That would be 11. So then you would just end up doing 24 minus 11, which I have them spaced out. There we go. 24 minus 11. So do that on your whiteboard. 24 minus 11, which would equal 13. 13. So what I just want you to take away from this is when we start going into our number stories, remember, you solve this parenthesis first, write that number. I think that is really helpful so that you can see like the 5 times 8 becomes a 40. The 17 minus 6 became an 11. It's part of that step. All right, so now the next part is in our workbook. So you can erase your whiteboards and put those to the side. And then you can pull out your workbooks. This is going to be on page 209. 209. Okay, so flip your math journals to 209. So with this one, it says connecting a number story and a number model. So here's your number model here. And now we'll read the problem. Quincy played 3 soccer games. In each game, he scored 2 goals. How many more goals does Quincy need to score a total of 10 goals? Use this number model to solve the problem. G represents the number of goals Quincy needs to score. So up here, I used a question mark, but if we're working with number stories, we might use a letter to represent our unknown number, like they did here. They used G. So it says 10 minus 3 times 2 equals G. So let's solve this together, okay? So 10 minus 3 times 2 equals G. So remember, we would start where? Where do we start? The 10, the 3 times 2, the G. Where do we start? We would start with 3 times 2. So what's 3 times 2? 6. So we would need to then do 10 minus 6, which equals G. So then we would say 4 equals G. So our answer would be 4 goals. So now they're saying, how do they fit? Explain to a partner how the number model fits the number story. Well, we're just going to kind of talk about it here. So in the beginning, it said that he played 3 soccer games. Well, there's the 3, and he scored 2 goals in each game. There's the 2. So we needed to do 3 times 2 because he had 3 games and 2. So 3 games and 2 goals in each game. So 3 times 2. And then he's trying to look for how many more goals does Quincy need for 10 goals total? Well, that's where we get the 10. When you're trying to figure out how many more, that's a subtraction problem. So you're finding the difference. So we needed to go from 10 goals down to what he had, which was 6 goals. So 10 minus 6, which would equal 4 goals. So see how you can relate a number sentence to a number story, but the numbers have to fit. We couldn't just make it up. It has to fit with the number sentence. So on your workbook, you can write this as your answer, 4 goals. And then where it says about explaining, I do want you to write this, your steps that you use to solve it. So 10 minus parenthesis 3 times 6 equals G. Then write the 6 underneath the 3 times 2 and show that you subtracted 10 minus 6 to get G, which would be 4. Then if you're confused at all at any point in the future lessons, you can go back and you can see how you solved it. Okay, so pause the video while you copy that down. All right, the next part is just kind of looking at an open-ended problem. So what this will be is this will be part of our 2-day lesson. So I'll introduce it to you now, and then between now and the next day that you watch the video, I want you to try and come up with your own number story. Your teacher may ask you to share these, so you want to try and come up with one on your own. The back of your math journals have a notes section. I mentioned them in a previous video, but if you flip all the way to the back, it looks like this, notes, and there's a couple pages. That would be a good place that you could write your number story. All right, so it says, write a two-step number story to fit the number sentence below. 12 minus, parenthesis, 4 times 2, parenthesis, equals 4. So these are my questions to you. What could 4 times 2 represent? What would 12 represent? And then think of what number story you could write to match this number sentence. Okay, so similar to this last one, it talked about him playing 3 soccer games, scoring 2 goals at each game. How many more did he need to score 10 goals? Okay, this is kind of a similar setup. Now, I don't want you to write the same exact thing, but if you need help, it is a similar setup to our first problem. So, like I said, this is the end of the video for today. But between now and the next day, I want you to think about what you could write, what number story you could write. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you some other student examples as well as one that I came up with, okay? So try your best and just get creative. Have fun, guys.